Hi, I'm Dr. Shammick Kotecha for the Kotecha GPS Club. Continuing our talks against COVID versus dentists or dentists versus COVID-19. Today I'm joined by Romal Bryce from BMO Bank. He's the head of healthcare. Thank you for joining us today. Last time I spoke to someone about practice valuations, and the discussion kind of led into financing and dealing with banks. So I thought, the next person to speak to would be a banker himself. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, no, Shammick, thank you for having me. I thought I'd give you guys a let's call it a up close and personal view of a banker who's working from home and who's a little bit ragged. So I apologize for the unshaven face.
Well, you and I both have the same issue here. We're probably ahead of the curve because what I see in Walmart, you can't get any hair clippers, and you probably have our fair share. So
that's right.
Okay, let's start talking about what dentists have been dealing with. So there's been lots of stuff reported about what banks can do for you. I'm going to deal specifically with dentists. So what have your clients been requesting from your bank?
Okay. So that's actually not a tough question. Right now, most folks are asking for payment deferrals, which are offered by all banks. And again, I think what I'll do, I'll talk broadly about the banking industry and the support mechanisms in place for existing dental practitioners. Yep. So we've made it very easy to defer principal payments on existing term loans, so that frees up cash flow. We've been increasing their operating lines to help them with short-term financing needs. And again, this is available across the banking industry. So the answer is for existing clients, making their payments and their financing structures much more reasonable for them at this point in time. And for, let's call it, those prospects who are looking for financing, I guess what we've tried to do is be as I guess, reasonable as possible as we adjudicate transactions.
Has any requests that you've got been declined? Can you disclose any of those?
Yeah, I won't go into specifics, but it's no different than transactions that I've looked at in the past. There are going to be some good deals and some deals that we just choose to pass on based on our risk appetite. So have I seen a few in recent weeks that I would say that is out of the norm? The answer is no. But have I passed on transactions? The answer is yes. And in those cases, it wasn't as much to do with the practice, but with the practitioner. We look for a certain profile when we're lending to anyone. That would be clean credit, some liquid assets to support them, and some managerial acumen. So the files that I have stepped aside on have been ones not about the practice, but about the practitioner who either has poor credit, no management acumen, and really has no fallback, just in case things get a little bit tough. They have nothing to support themselves with. So I think as a banker and as an industry, we're responsible for those individuals as well. We cannot put people in a position to fail. So I would rather say no early on and say, these are the reasons why. And usually when I say no, I articulate why, not just no. And the bank says no, it's, hey, listen, it's Romal. I've said no because of these reasons. And maybe in the future, once these things are ameliorated, then you can revisit.
Cash flow is king.
Yes, it is.
So, what other things you touched on some of the things I had questions on, but let's specifically talk about line of credits, existing line of credits, or new line of credits.
Sure.
What do you need to show? So let's take me. I own a practice and I've been dealing with your bank for a while, and I call you up after COVID-19 makes me shut down, and I say, listen, I need an operating line of credit just to cover my expenses. What do I have to give to you?
So if you're an existing client, chances are, and I cannot think of a single dental practitioner who actually does not have an operating line. So if you're an existing client, you have an existing operating line, to get the temporary increase, it's just simply a call into your banker. As long as you were in good standing before COVID-19, I think it's almost an automatic process, right? Now, if you're net new, like let's say for instance, you were a bank client, but you for some reason had no operating line or debt, the banker might say, hey, listen, you know what? I just need to understand what your financial position was before and get a sense of, what your cash flows like during COVID and what you think it will be. And then they process the application. Of course, they have to assess you as well, but it is a process.
Yeah. So let's, now we're talking on day-to-day banking, let's go into practice sales. Since March 17th, has BMO been involved with any closings? Have they happened?
I would say that the actual volume of transactions, the M&A transaction world has slowed down substantially. We have been in talks with a number of clients about sales that are going to occur once the COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. But have I seen anything that's closed during this time? Not at all.
Not at all.
And I would say that across the industry, what I'm getting, or I'm hearing from valuators and even clients is that they're being I guess judicious and cautious, and most of the transactions are slated for closing once the RCDSO and the government lifts their restrictions.
Okay, so in terms of funding, you think it's going to change at all going forward? I mean, I've used funding to buy my practice, and it's been in terms of getting funding for a dentist, compared to speaking with some of my other friends who run other businesses, it's it is not as challenging for us because of our reputations, and very few dental practices actually do go bankrupt. Do you think, has it changed since March 17th? Like,
so I guess I can say from our standpoint at Bank of Montreal, I don't think we have changed. What's helped is that folks or clients coming in have made it easy for saying, hey, listen, we don't expect you to close now. We're going to close later. So it hasn't forced us to make the capital available. What I will say is, going forward, all the good things you mentioned before about dentists being low default, low risk, always paying their bills, those things have helped make capital easily available and readily available from all the banks. As long as the default rates for dentist practices do not increase exponentially coming out of COVID-19, I don't think that the actual, I guess, getting practice financing is going to be an issue. Now, in the short term, do I suspect that the banks may exercise a bit more due diligence and say, listen, you know what, Mr. Associate, you've been practicing a year, you want to buy a $5 million practice, and of course, being facetious, and you've got no net worth. Will we probably say, hey, listen, probably not the best time? That's likely going to happen. But no, if you're a proven practitioner, you're picking up a practice that's established, it's been around for a number of years, and as long as we see some good positive signs out of the economy, I don't think it'll be an issue.
Okay. Have you had any bankruptcies come through your desks?
Shammick, how dare you ask me that question on this interview? The answer is no. I have not seen. That's
good to hear from my brother.
No. Listen, I appreciate the question. I've been singing the praises of the dental industry and even healthcare broadly for a very long time. In my role, I've got to make sure and communicate that healthcare and dentistry is low risk, and that helps make sure capital is available, and I get to grow my book of business, right? So just to give you a sense, typical default rates across banking is about 2% for the general commercial business. Yeah. Now, that's not a lot, but it's still enough. For healthcare, and I'll use my book of business, it's 0.01%. Wow. So you contrast that, and I know we're talking about 2% versus 0.01, but when you start thinking about the difference in percentages,
that's actually pretty good.
It's massive. So for me, do I expect the default rates to go up? I do think so. Not all practices are the same, and not all of them were in the very same financial position going into the shutdown. But do I expect it to, all of a sudden, dental practices to match the default rates of the general commercial population? The answer is no.
Yeah, that's good to know. Good to know. So going forward, what are the things you see how your bank and other banks can help us as dentists going forward? What do you think the future is holding for us?
So I think most importantly is making sure capital is available to the actual industry. And that's the easy answer. I think the more difficult component of that is making sure we provide good guidance and at times challenge dentists or prospects coming in who are trying to buy practices. I think what we've done historically, because of all those good things about dental practices, low default, I think we at times would turn a blind eye to certain deficiencies on the management side. And I think what you'll see going forward is that there will be an expectation that, if you're buying a practice, you're buying a business. We want to be able to see that you actually can run a business, or at least have some sense of that. So I think there'll be a bit more coaching and guidance.
Yeah,
Right?
I think every dentist could benefit from some business management training. They don't teach a lot of that. I mean, they teach some of that in school. I wish they taught more, depending on what school you go to, depending on what you get. But it's something that, I think is important. We run businesses. We are the HR. We are the CEO.
You've got it.
Jack of all trades.
Shammick, dentists have a very tough job, right? To your point, you're the master of your I guess your sphere of expertise. That part I get, but you still have to run a practice. And to your point, it's a one-stop shop for you. Now, if you're a consolidator or you're a corporate, you have a team of individuals to do those things, and you can focus on other things. But if you're a single practitioner, you have to run everything, and you owe it to yourself to educate yourself, especially in business.
Yeah,
you have to. I think every call I've been on, folks have been saying, "Listen, what can we expect of banks?" They've asked the question, "What should we expect from you guys?" And I've just said, "Listen, these are the things you should expect from me. But what I expect from you is that during this shutdown, if you're not doing anything, take a course."
Oh yeah.
Like it's not hard.
I think there's no shortage of them.
Of course.
And you can go clinical, which a lot of my colleagues have. I've tried to do some clinical, but also some stuff that is a little bit different. I said this in another video, and it's not my line, so I have to give credit to somebody else. I don't know who I heard it from, but I read it said work on your practice while you're not in your practice.
Exactly.
And it's very hard to do. I mean, I have two practices. I have one in a satellite location, and I have associates. Between that and managing both those practices and then coming home to your family life, there's not a lot of time. So, right now, time is what we have. I think it's important that as dentists go forward, you pick up some resources that will help you going forward. Like anything you learn now, don't learn. I mean, if you're never going to place implants, don't take an implant course. Take
That's
something
right.
to help you. So we all can use. I wish we had a better set of programs that dentists could use for business. I'm sure they're out there. I've looked at some.
There are, but I think the mistake a lot of practitioners make is thinking that you need to have specialized business courses for dental practices. The reality is it's a business. You just need to be, as long as you understand the fundamentals of business, how to run a business, how to manage cash flow, those things will pay dividends in the long run. I don't expect people to have a master's. Like no one expects that, but you need to be able to have understand what you don't want is to be fully reliant on your team of advisors. You want to be able to have a basic understanding of certain things like accounting. I get it. You're an accountant. You have an accountant, that's fine. But you should still be able to understand what's going on. The worst thing, I know it happens with me. I don't want to be in a position where I'm fully reliant on someone because I don't have any knowledge, because then they can take advantage of me.
I totally agree. And that's important. You should understand what you're doing because you're putting your name on stuff too.
That's correct.
Dentist, you sign off on your financials from your accountant.
That's it.
You have some idea what they actually mean. So,
that's right.
Well, you've answered a lot of questions. Do you have anything to add that would help the dental industry going forward? Do you think any advice, any things you think coming, or any last thoughts?
Listen, so for the existing practitioners, and I've said this before, listen, it's a tough time. Understand you're under a lot of stress. Please make sure you take advantage of every single bank program that's available. That's the payment deferrals, increases in your lines. Educate yourself on the government subsidies. There are a fair bit out there. Talk to your accountant. And I'm giving you a lot of stuff. I'm sorry. Talk to your accountant. Please, hold on. I lost my screen there. So talk to your accountant and actually plan out your cash flow. Like what you're trying to do right now is survive in the short term, so you're well positioned to come
cash flow.
That's it.
A lot of good spreadsheets on that. Know what your bills that you have no choice of paying are.
That's right.
Rent, utilities, interest payments. If you have some payroll, and know that those are fixed expenses. You got to know those and have a 90-day expense. Not only for your business, you should have that for your home as well. But
Shammick, I think you and I are going to do a business course for dentists.
Yeah, I'd love
I think
to
that's the next step.
Yeah,
that's the next step.
Nuts and bolts of dental finance. I think, so many dentists could benefit from, even me. I mean, I learn something every day. Now I have one benefit. My brother is an accountant, so I have the ability
Okay, perfect.
to reach out and ask someone if I really need something. Anyways, you know what? Thank you very much for taking your time today. Now I have a question for you. You're the head of healthcare. Obviously, you have people who work for you all over the country,
Yep.
correct? Where's the best? At the end of this video, on our video, we will post your contact information. Would you like us to have them contact you, or do you have a list of people we can have them in different? Like, if I'm
You know what? I have.
Ontario.
I do have a list, but to make things easy for your viewers, just put my name on there. Listen, folks. I'm available at all times. Unfortunately, my wife tells me I should take my phone off, but if you need me, you can find me.
Perfect. Anyways,
And
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say one more thing, just to make it easy. I am the only Romal in the Canadian business banking landscape, so you will find me.
That's like me. I'm the only Shammick. So if someone Googles me, it's like, if you don't find me, you're not looking at the right spot. Anyways, thank you very much. And these will be posted. We have more videos coming. We're probably speaking to more about, those programs we talked about.
Sure.
Canadian emergency wage subsidy, and there's some things coming along that pipeline. Once again, work on your practice, not in it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shammick. Take care.